So Google just dropped a brand new image model called Gemini 2.4 Flash, codenamed Nano Banana. And here's why this matters. Unlike most image models, this one doesn't just generate pretty pictures. It can actually reason through your design prompts, which means that you can swap a sofa, recolor a rug, even change the lighting, and even add a designer named lamp, all conversationally in seconds. If you want to see how this actually works for interior design, hit like so I know to make more. So in this video, I'll show you where to find Nano Banana, aka Gemini Flash 2.5, how it compares with other models, and then do a full test run where you can edit a living room step by step with me. Now, let me walk you through the workflow I tested step by step. And this is where it gets exciting for interior designers. You don't need to download anything new. Nano Banana is already inside Google's AI Studio. I've previously tested Nano Banana within Image Arena, but you don't need to go there. So just head over to Google AI Studio and make sure you're choosing this Gemini 2.5 Flash image preview. I've used some of the tokens, but you can see there's a limit token count of 32,000. This has got me quite far in my tests, so I do encourage you to give it a try. It's for free. So just before we move on into Nano Banana, you can see that I used Image Arena to test some images. Now, if you don't know what Image Arena is basically an open source testing site for image generation. I'll leave a link on the screen so you can go check it out. But basically what you'll do is you'll put in a prompt and it will give you two versions of the image, and then you get to rate which one is good or bad, or whether you are agnostic, whatever. So you can see here I used this prompt, which is a prompt, if you've watched some of my previous videos you would recognize this prompt, and you can see these are some of the results. So we're looking at Quen Image versus Flux Context Pro, and what we do is we look at these and you will vote at which one you think is the better one. You never know what model you're getting, but it will tell you after you vote which model it is. And you can see here are some of the results from Nano Banana, and they are pretty good. You can see some of the texture and the lighting is very realistic. Here's another example of the same prompt, and you can see it does give you some variety in terms of the shapes, in terms of the coloring. And then for interest, I want you to see the Gemini 2.0 Flash Preview image generation. So this is the previous model that Gemini used. You can see here in a comparison, the GPT image 1, the image is extremely dark, not very realistic, and I wouldn't really recommend ChatGPT as an image generator unless you're using it as part of your workflow. However, I will be posting a video very soon about how to improve your ChatGPT images. So if you are interested in that, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss that video. Let's go back into Google AI Studio and you will see that I've put in that same prompt. And with that prompt, I got this image here. I think it's quite a nice image. A bit too many can lights in the ceiling, but the textures are quite nice. The sofa is kind of boring though, so let's see whether we can change that. So I found this sofa on Jardin, and it's the Valley sofa, and I wanted it to be placed into this scene that was generated. So you can see the tests were not very conclusive. I didn't manage to do it. I did it around 3 times and then it did it, but it changed all the other elements of the room, which I didn't want it to do. So then I asked it again. So I said, here's the original image. Can you replace this sofa in this image, but keep everything else the same? Now you can see it has changed the sofa, but again, it is different. So I did it again, did exactly the same. The only difference between this and the original is it added, I don't know why, but it added a cushion. So let's just have a quick look here. You can see it's added a cushion here. Asked it again, didn't manage to do that. And then what I did was give it a more detailed prompt. So what I did was then I wrote in the deep olive green velvet sofa runs across the roof and a copy of the sofa image attached. So I attached the image and it managed to do that. So that's the hack there. So make sure that your prompt refers to that particular sofa image, and you can see it's not too bad. Then I asked it to replace the daybed with this Flexform Gregory XL daybed as a test, and it managed to do that very easily, keeping everything similar. Then I asked it to add in a neutral rug and it managed to do that. So let's just take a look. Obviously there's a few texture problems with the rug. It's not perfect, but it does actually, from far away, you can see it does give you a really good impression. The next one was whether we can change the painting on the wall to a landscape, and I said keep the colors similar, and you can see here the colors are very similar to the previous image. And then I said, can you change the back wall color to a green? And it gave me a can of paint. So that was interesting. That was a little bit out there, but I did it again and it managed to do that. So you can see here we've got a green wall, a green sofa, we've got our daybed here in this image. So then I said, can you change the carpet to a pale green color? Now this is not a great green, but it still managed to do it. So then I asked it to do something different. Now one of the great things about this Flash image preview is that it uses real language. It can actually reason through the design prompts. So the next test that I did is to add in a lamp by a particular designer. So in this case, Louis Poulsen. So the key here is that not only has to understand that it needs to add in a lamp, but it also needs to understand who Louis Poulsen is and his designs. Because it is a natural language image processor, it can do that. So there was no reference image, and you can see it has inserted something that looks pretty authentic. And even if you look at the detail around the base of the lamp, you can see it sort of sinking into the rug, which is very realistic. And I think this is a pretty good example of what it can do. So the next test is to change the lighting in this image to an evening scene. Now you can see when I gave it that simple prompt, change the lighting to an evening scene, you can see that it has just added in this overhead light here, and not sure whether I love that. So you can still see it's still bright on the outside, so not particularly realistic. I then added, make sure it is nighttime outside, and again the result was fairly similar. And you can see these two lights are not on either. So then I went into ChatGPT, and obviously this prompt wasn't going to cut it. And I asked it to write a prompt, and you can see it turned up with transform the scene into nighttime with soft, warm ambient lighting, and so on. So add a gentle glow from the recessed ceiling lights and candles on the coffee table, and suggest a faint moonlight glow. So let's have a look at the result. You can see it's much darker. There's a bright light coming here. These are not really emphasized, but you can see the candles are glowing, the lamp is glowing, and it has much more of this evening vibe. So one of the issues that I found was that I asked it to change this scene into an evening scene and make sure it's nighttime outside. And when you actually look at it, you can see there's this very sort of strange artifact. I think it's this make sure it's nighttime outside. It's added this little panel. And when I actually gave it this image, again, it continued that issue throughout. So what I did again was regenerate this. So go back. So I went back and I found the image where the lighting was perfect and the scene was as I wanted it. And I gave it the prompt plus the image, and it did generate this. And this is a very, very nice evening result. You can see it's actually fixed the problem with the lighting. And we've added in some candles, and the lamp is there and glowing. So it looks extremely realistic. And you can see, though, it took quite a bit of time. It took 110 seconds, whereas these ones took pretty much like 20 seconds to generate. So quite a bit longer as it processed the image and the ideas in the image. But you can see that the result of a nighttime image is really quite pleasing. So what does this mean for us as designers? Firstly, one of the big drawbacks to something like MidJourney or ChatGPT is the inability to actually adjust images without changing sort of fundamental elements of that image. So this model shows that it is actually possible for it to reason about design edits and not just generate a static image. So you don't need Photoshop skills anymore to restyle a room. You can just ask it in plain language, and the same goes for rendering style. If you look at the light, if you look at the placement of this lamp on the rug, you can see this is still a model in development, and it is still being improved. You can see how fast the capability of image generation has come. Another point is with the Louis Poulsen, it recognizes design brands and it keeps the images consistent through the multiple edits, as I've shown. Now, it's not perfect yet, but it's already reliable enough for concept boards, for mood studies, for client presentations, and so on. This isn't about replacing your creativity. It's about saving you time and showing your clients multiple directions without having to re-render a scene from scratch. At each step, the model didn't fall apart. It kept the room layout consistent, and it just edited the details I asked for. That's a big difference from other tools where one change can break the whole scene. I'd love to know, what's the first design prompt you'd test with Nano Banana? Drop it in the comments. And if you found this useful, hit like. And if you want to see a comparison of 8 other image generation tools, check out this video next. You can find it up here. I drop a ton of AI prompts, tests, and results in my free community for interior designers, the Design Success Circle. If you want to keep up to date on systems, skills, and tools for designers, I'd love for you to join me there and connect. See you there.